We're just about to start. There we go. All right, so good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. First of all, I'd like to thank Bruce Shear for joining us today. He's the author of Inspire Your Buyers and been a good friend for many years. He's based over in stateside, and he's going to share with us really what it takes to make an implementation story that sizzles, which I'll come to in a few minutes. We've done this time, and just saying to Cindy, thank you for dialing in from New Zealand. Being a virtual organization has its advantages and its disadvantages, and we always like to vary the time. And even though majority of our members are based around European and Middle Eastern time zone, for those in New Zealand and Margaret, for you in Arizona, it's late in the evening, but it's at least a reasonable time. So that's why we've done this. Ali was with us as well. I'm not sure where he's based. So we vary the time for that reason. And then that's the other reason, Bruce, that we record it, so that for those who can't make this specific timing. The agenda for today is I'm just going to run through a couple of updates. Each month, either Antonio and I host the meeting, and we always use the opportunity just to give an update on the Institute and what's happening in the world of implementation. Then we're going to hear from Bruce on the 5 essential elements that supercharge your strategy implementation story. And one of his favorite expressions is infusing it with the sizzle, the power in propelling your initiative to greater heights. Oh dear, Bruce, I have to take that photo down.
Oh, oops.
So I'll do that.
I knew I'd throw you off.
The other part of it Bruce is going to share from his book is how to shape and refine your narrative and implement your strategy. And Cindy, you mentioned you just started on the course. I don't know which module you did first, but in the 20 years of research, every single time we published the results, one of the top 3 reasons why strategy implementation fails is poor communication. So to have Bruce here today, and he's helped me also with the Institute when we were starting with Antonio to help us articulate the right message. So here we go. On the updates, we shared this in the conference in a video, but I thought it'd be good just to show it. Whoops, it's gone, still on video mode. So the total members, we're now up to just about to hit the 500 mark. You can see the various locations around the world, which is why we have so much time with the time zones. The countries, you can see also. So much, the European time is when we get the biggest amounts. And we're coming up to 140 of the strategy implementation professionals, which, considering the Institute, we only launched it 3 years ago in the start of the pandemic. Okay, so sorry, it's on auto mode. So we're delighted with what it's come to. Can you just pause? I'm just going to pause for a minute. Sorry. Just let me stop sharing for a second. All right. I'm just going to go on without just showing it in normal screen, if you don't mind. Okay. So as I was saying, so we're now coming up to 140 people who have gone through the course in the last 3 years. So we continue to qualify. New members come on board almost every day. And last month we had over 50 people come in the 1 day alone. So we're delighted with the growth. And Antonio and I will be getting together in the second half of this year And we're going to revisit the strategy and the positioning. And then the other quick update is we've engaged a third party, and we're also going to update the website, the members page, and the different offers. So plenty going to happen towards the second half of the year. The first half of the year, the highlight was the conference in May that we were extremely delighted with. I always like to put in an implementation update, just something that's come across my desk that is more relative, more recent. And this one is the tyranny of a good idea. And this came from Amazon. Amazon and myself are working with a client, and one of the team, I liked the way he framed it. He talked about the tyranny of a good idea, and where the gentleman from Amazon was, what he was referring to was when we're in a meeting and we're solving a problem for the customer, we come up with the first solution and we go, great. And we all think that's it. And we move forward. No customer evidence is done. No empathizing is done. Occasionally now we're getting a little bit better, but still just a little bit of data is sourced. So he calls it the tyranny of a good idea. And he highlights that 85 to 95% of new products fail due in part to a lack of testing before investing. So very powerful. And this came from Eric, who is one of the regional managers in Amazon Asia. And he's saying, just that failure to do our homework before we jump in and launch the products. And there's a massive opportunity cost. And we are guilty of creating products for customers that they don't want. So product that the customer doesn't want, for solving a customer problem that doesn't exist, and for designing a product that doesn't even solve the customer's problems. So Amazon has done a lot of good work in really empathizing with the customer. They have their own approach to design thinking that challenges the traditional approach to product development. And design thinking is not just under digital, but it's an approach, and it's wonderful because it's really putting the emphasis and the focus and making sure that organizations are working outside in. They're starting with the customer and moving forward. So with that introduction, it's my great pleasure to introduce Bruce. As you saw from the picture, Bruce and I have known each other for, I think it's 30 years now, Bruce. I don't think we want to admit this. Okay. He is the CEO of Inspire Your Buyers. What a wonderful name that is, Bruce. Good title for a book. He is president of the National Speakers Association Northwest, which the Speakers Association is speakers who come together to support each other, who deliver the keynotes. His company has been featured in Deloitte's fastest growing private companies list in the last for 3 years in a row, which is a fantastic achievement. Deloitte do a lot of hard work to make sure and identify the right potential companies. And Bruce works with clients and he focuses very much on the go-to-market for the growth of revenue in the industry, and includes winning industry companies such as HP and others he's going to share with us. But he's been involved in HP's Marketing Circle of Excellence and the Corporate Executives Board Marketing Campaign of the Year Awards. So putting it succinctly, Bruce understands what it takes to enable revenue growth. But today, he's been kind enough to adapt the model to what it means to implementation. And it's part of his mantra, which is really to inspire others to inspire others. And of course, we have to recommend as a must read, it's, it's still another one going through. So Inspire Your Buyers is, he's got some wonderful feedback on Amazon. Please do, if you pick up a copy, do leave a review on Amazon for Bruce, because it really does just give you well, he's going to share, I don't want to take the share, but he's going to share today what the model's all about and just give you the nuggets, and it's a great read. Okay. So on that note, Bruce, I really appreciate you taking the time to join us today, and looking forward, and thank you for joining us.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you. Great introduction. Just a quick quiz. I was out in Singapore last year, and Robin and I took this photo together. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. Actually, a few more years than that. But no, thanks so much, Robin, for bringing me to the table. And definitely based on this book, Inspire Your Buyers, Go to Market with a Story That Sizzles. And Robin had asked, hey, could I adapt that for you guys? And absolutely. The theme that I have for us to discuss today is how do we take advantage of a story that sizzles to boost our strategy implementation success? And so, I did write the book, and the book was based off of experience with a lot of the blue chip companies in the technology sector where I typically camp out. Amazon, AWS is on the list, for example. But I work with these organizations. If they have a new product, new service, new partnership, strategic partnership, new acquisition, that typically triggers the need for a new story, a new go-to-market campaign and strategy. And I'll get involved in building the story. Typically, I'll start with sellers, the story that the sellers could use, the inspirers that we'll use to get buyers to change. And then I'll work with the marketing function, and very often even product, funny enough, Robin, to the point you were making earlier, in terms of how does that map to the story we want to tell the market. So again, a lot of that wisdom and experience, I'm bringing that into how do we help implement strategy with a story that sizzles. So what I'd like to do is start with a story that I think is relevant. And this was just during the lead up to the pandemic. So I got invited out to Dubai as part of a revenue team's congregation, their annual thing. And this company, $2 billion company in the aerospace sector. And so anyways, the person that was hosting this whole event, his name was Jeremy, and I'm changing the name to protect the innocent. But so anyways, Jeremy, it was his big event. He's a revenue leader, and he chief commercial officer. And he had been spending the last year working on recasting the organization's brand. And they had made some huge technology innovation investments and solutions. And so he really wanted to get across the points that, hey, we're extremely innovative. And he also wanted to get across the point that they're global in nature, and they were able to bring cutting edge innovation to locations around the globe, just like that, with the global solutions and global coverage and capability. So those were the big things he was trying to get across. The other thing that was kind of, gnawing at the back of his head, he had built his career around this organization, and he had a new CEO. And to be frank, he wanted to keep his job. So that's what was going on in Jeremy's head. So about mid-morning, he snuck into one of the group's rooms where there was a bunch of sales leaders and reps. And he decided, just for fun, and he asked everybody, hey, if you could help me out, I'd just love to go one by one. Would you guys mind just introduce yourself and my organization like you would to a new prospect? And so he went one by one. And then, gosh, after a while, he just started to slump. He was just feeling rotten. He wasn't hearing that they were innovative and cutting edge and bringing solutions to market. What he heard was they were born in World War II with no explanation. So just implying that they're old, stodgy, and bureaucratic, et cetera, everything that an old company would be. So we heard that. And then also what he heard as a common theme was everybody talking about their heritage of where they were from, a certain part of Europe. And so he didn't get the innovation he wanted, didn't get the globalization he wanted, and all that capability, all that cutting edge technology, the solutions that they had to help their customers. So he pretty much felt sick to his stomach. So lucky for me, he was feeling sick to his stomach, and we had a chance to have lunch together. And I talked to him about the importance of having a story, a narrative that his sellers could use. Because, of course, he had his messaging house that he'd been building, all these different messages, but it was devoid of a story, devoid of a narrative. So how could he expect these sellers to memorize and remember all these random acts of messaging without a narrative? So we talked about that, and he goes, wow, you're right. He goes, Bruce, I don't have any budget right now, but send me a proposal. I'll find the budget and I'll work on this with you personally. This will be one of my top priorities. So we did. And about a year and a half later, that $2 billion organization actually even did a restructure around the narrative that we created together. So when you get it and get it right, it can be incredibly powerful, and it really helped them out. So anyways, that's the importance of a narrative. We want to get people out of Jeremy's circumstance of, WTF, and help people with having a great story that sizzles. And that's what I think you guys need. So, and you're not alone. I want to highlight a video for you real fast. It's just a short video. And this company was called Razorfish. And they were acquired by Publicis, but they were valued at $4 billion. And I'd like you to hear how these two founders describe themselves. So just one sec. I'll go ahead and play this for you. And again, it'll just be about 1 minute. And here we go.
The nexus of this revolution, the new Valley Forge, is a place they call Silicon Alley. It's a bunch of old sweatshops in lower Manhattan. It's gritty, it's noisy, it's harder to get a taxi than to launch a new company. It's here that Jeff and Craig launched Razorfish, which is now worth $4 billion. One of the most successful companies on the web. Successful at what? Good question.
We've asked our clients to recontextualize their business. We've recontextualized what it is to be a services business.
There are people out there, such as myself, who have trouble with the word recontextualize. Tell me what you do in English.
We provide services to companies to help them win.
So do trucking firms.
Absolutely, absolutely.
That's right.
Absolutely.
But what is it you do?
And our talent is to do a certain thing, whereas the trucking firm...
But what is it you do?
We radically transform businesses to invent and reinvent them.
That's still very vague.
Business strategy.
Translation? Teaching established companies how to make more money and reach more customers through the internet, or something like that.
Thanks for watching that. Yeah, it's kind of a funny clip, and from what I find is it's incredibly normal, which is probably the sad thing. I go into organizations and they have messaging very, sometimes they don't, but even then, they lack a story, a narrative. And so I just think it's just absolutely critical to have that, even at a $4 billion company valuation that they had, no story. And again, I see no story day in and day out. And what I do see is random acts of content, random acts of conversation, and it's not helpful. So there's an imperative for narrative. And I like to say it's deceptively simple, what I'm going to be teaching you guys, but it's mastered by few because I rarely see it. So I'm hoping, Rob, and everybody's still with us. I'm not seeing smiling faces anymore, but I would like to run a quick poll with. Oh, there's Cindy. Awesome. There we are. Yeah, Mark, excuse me. Hey, so what I'd like to do, though, is run a quick poll with you guys. Margaret, Cindy, Alan, and Richard, if you guys could take your phone, there's a QR code here. What's that, Robin?
I will do also, yeah?
Yeah, please. Yeah, I was just curious. Take your phone and put it up to the screen and grab that QR code with your camera. And I just want to do a quick pulse with you guys. I'd like to hear your perspective of what are the benefits of having this narrative, a story that sizzles as you think about strategy implementation. And this thing, when you guys will do it, it has it'll generate a word cloud for us. Is that playing ball?
I don't know if anyone else is having trouble. Mine's not ready. I got it now.
Yeah, I initially had problems, but it's working now for me.
Yeah, probably needs to be
Oh,
a bit
good.
bigger with the help, but yeah.
Yeah, just take a few moments and bang some ideas in there. Some of the benefits of having this narrative for your strategy implementation. And Margaret, were you successful?
Yes, I did have to go to the Menti website on the side because my phone
Oh.
wasn't recognizing the QR code.
Oh,
So
weird.
I
Okay.
manually went to the website.
Oh, thank you for doing that.
There we go.
Awesome. Well, that's working out. Okay. So now I would agree with all these points. These are good ones. Robin, from your experience, anything else you'd add or?
Yeah, the beginning of a strategy, what you'll always have is confusion, which is why your message is so important today. Why confusion? Because we're changing and what's right, what's wrong. And at the launch phrase, nobody knows. And this is why the communication is so critical, that you need the clarity. What is the right direction? What is expected? What do we need to do different?
Excellent. Excellent. No, I agree. So, definitely these are the benefits. Let me ask you guys the next question, and I hope this plays ball for us. I want to head over to the next question for you guys. How important would you say the narrative, the story is in relation to everything else as it has to do with strategy implementation? Where would you put the importance in relation to other things you have to be thinking about? And Robin, I know you've got your implementation compass. There's so many things involved with that, but where would you guys put it?
Yeah, so for the Institute, we call it SIR. We adjusted it, so it's a strategy implementation roadmap.
Excellent. So I think we've got uniformity around this is extremely important. I was hoping for that. Therefore, we're not wasting our time in this valuable conversation. So let's go ahead and move forward here then. What I'd like to talk about, so it looks like, there's tons of benefits and the importance extreme. Often what I'm trying to go for is, do you see the effect here with the CCC, but I'm trying to help have a clear narrative, one that's compelling, meaning, it resonates with the target audience. And then the third word that I've been thinking a lot about is it's catalyzing. So, inspire your buyers. That's the name of my company and the name of the book. To inspire is to get someone to act at the end of the day. That's the definition. They are taking action. And that's where I'm thinking your strategic narrative that you guys are building for your strategy implementation initiatives, they should be catalyzing. You're really trying to catalyze many stakeholders, I believe, in some of the incredibly important things you're doing for your organization. So those are kind of three key attributes that I see. It's kind of an acid test. How are we doing with our narrative? Is it incredibly clear? Is it compelling? And is it catalyzing? So I'd like to ask one more question of you guys. Just in a narrative that you have underway right now, or one that you've done in the recent past for one of your strategy implementation initiatives, how would you rate the narrative across those three dimensions of being clear, compelling, and catalyzing? I'm curious how you'd rate yourself. Okay.
I'm biased,
all right,
because I do a lot of work in this area. So I'll confess, I gave the extreme, because if I don't do it right, then I'm in trouble.
Okay. All right, man. All right. Well, thanks for that. Thanks for that honesty and clarity there, because I'm hoping the 5 elements that I'll be teaching as part of this will really help in this area. So I want to ask you guys a new question here. And that's, what are you selling at the end of the day? So if you're selling something to someone, you know, effectively you're selling your change to someone, or you're selling a product, or think about when you tried to sell your kids on something. What are you selling at the end of the day? Are you trying to sell a problem, a solution, or an outcome? What are you selling at the end of the day? And
Bruce,
let's
can
go
I give
ahead
the
and move.
context? Are you asking from within an organization launching their strategy, or from the business? Which perspective are you asking?
Whatever context you want. When you're trying to sell something, what are you selling at the end of the day? A problem, a solution, or outcome? What are you selling that buyer on? And in this instance, if it's around your initiative, the buyer is probably staff or a key stakeholder, a partner. But what would you say you're selling at the end of the day? All right. Somebody voted twice. What the heck? No, I'm kidding. No, we got somebody extra participating, which is totally cool. So the votes are in, and it looks like outcome is winning in this poll. But I'd like to spoil things for you a little bit. It was a trick question. What I would say at the end of the day, what you're selling is a problem, an outcome, and a solution. And let me ask you this: in what order would you sell them? What would you say? In what order would you sell them? Let me test you on that. If you agree with me there, in what order would you sell them? And let me see if I can change this poll one more time. So you gotta really get them, you know, embracing the problem, etc. But in what order do you sell these things? Problem, solution, outcome, problem, outcome, solution. And I'm missing some votes.
Yeah, my phone doesn't like your QR code. There we
No.
go. Got it.
Margaret and Cindy, your guys are in. Excellent. Okay. Problem, solution, outcome, problem, outcome, solution. The winner is not the majority, but the one or the two. Problem, outcome, solution. That's pretty cool. Normally people don't, they do gravitate towards problem, solution, outcome. And that's normal. And sadly, gosh, you know, most sellers that I interact with, they typically, especially if they're junior, they go a solution first. They try to get you to fall in love with their solution. Then after that, if that doesn't work, they talk about the outcome. And then if that doesn't work, then they throw what's called a Hail Mary, and then they try to throw a problem to see if that's going to work. But the ideal flow of this whole thing is truly start with the problem, excuse me. You know, really get somebody anchored in that, then move over to the outcome, get them excited about the potential of that future, and then move into how are we going to get there, the how, the solution. So that's the cognitive flow. And sometimes people get into a debate with me of, hey, wait a second, you know, when I talk to customers and buyers, sometimes they want the outcome more than solving the problem, and it really depends. But to help kind of win that battle, there was a guy, Daniel Kahneman, and he wrote a book called Thinking Fast and Slow, a really popular book in business circles. You guys have probably seen it. But that's where he coined prospect theory and loss aversion. So this chart here really helps tell a good story. So, and it tells a story of how irrational human beings like us are, really. And what they did is they looked at, you know, what's more valued by somebody, you know, a potential gain or minimizing potential loss. And as you look at this value curve, you know, like from A up, it's a lot shorter distance from A down here on the loss. So effectively, what it really means is, say, I gave you $50, that's a gain, that makes you happy. But say I took $50 from you, it's going to be twice as worse. It's like I took 100 from you, that $50, because humans hate loss and risk and try to avoid it at all costs, especially the executives that you guys deal with. You know, but of course we like the outcome as well. We like the positive gain. But, you know, because the problem has way more weight than the outcome, I'm always telling the sellers that I work with, start problem first. If you want someone to change, if you want to inspire them to take an action, a positive change, start with the problem first. That has the heaviest impact on influencing someone in change. Then move to the outcome, you know, what life on the beach looks like. And then after that, move to the solution domain, start getting into the how. So thanks for understanding that with me. And what I'll do next is I'll take us in and I'll show you the context, how this works with a company that I was working with actually at a bar in San Francisco on Fisherman's Wharf.
If I can,
So I was in there.
If I can interrupt for a second, Bruce.
Sure. Yeah.
So relating it to the world of implementation, you know, so the term we use for the problem would typically be something maybe like a burning platform.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, the problem is, you know, we're using analog models, or we're not fast response, and the outcome we want, you know, today it's everyone's thinking digital, so we need to build a digital platform or AI or chatbots or RPA, put it all in place. And the solution is what we then offer the customer, something like that.
The outcome, you said what again was that,
Rob? The solution is then offering the customer better, faster, better experience. Yeah, could be. And funny enough, the story I'll tell next might have a similar flow to it that you just highlighted. So let me do that, because I want to anchor us in a couple of stories, just so you guys really have it. Once you have it, I'm going to see you apply it in some pretty powerful ways, and I'll be excited to hear about it. But before I jump into story, though, I want to just do a quick little game with you guys. What does a rare orchid in a forest, an amazing cave formulation, and a unique star constellation have in common? What do these three items have in common? What would you say? Any guesses?
The adjective that you're using to frame it as being kind of conveying that sense of being special or having some unique quality.
Totally, Margaret. Wow, that's really perceptive. Exactly. That is true. That's one thing they have in common. I intentionally did that. Anything else?
You don't see them very often.
Yeah. They're unusual, and which is totally true. And I'll jump to the chase here. And one thing that I looked at is so a rare orchid in the forest, the amazing cave formulation, unique star constellation. They're awesome and they're unusual. They're all found in nature, but in particular, it's kind of funny. I was telling my wife when I was selecting these visuals, Bruce Shear. You know, I'm so glued to my computer and anything electronic. If I'm cruising through a forest and I saw this beautiful rare orchid, I'd probably go, "Oh, that's interesting." Then I'd just move on. But a trained botanist would like go, "What in the hell? You know, there's this awesome. I've never seen that before," and just get completely in love with the sighting. Meanwhile, I'd just go chomping through. So the amazing cave formulation, same thing. Bruce Shear would go through there and go, "Oh, another formulation. Okay, let's keep going." Versus somebody who's really a spelunker, really into caved their whole life, they'd see this and go, "Oh my goodness, wow." And they'd probably spend a day there. And then same thing on the unique star constellation. I kind of look and I probably wouldn't even see this thing, but somebody who's trained would go, "Wow, I've never seen that. That's awesome." So the point I wanted to make with these objects, that they're incredibly special for the right target audience. And I want you to keep that in mind, because when we're crafting a narrative, a story, it needs to resonate with a special audience. And that's kind of some of the magic of what I do. And I think what you guys will do as well. You know, who is the audience that we're designing this narrative for? And are there multiple audiences? Can I get away with just one narrative, or do I need to change that? You know, there's a lot of dimension to that. but your narrative should be special. It should really turn on the person you're trying to inspire. So back into a storyline here. I'm at a Fisherman's Wharf in San Francisco. I was in there into San Francisco working with a company called Fastly, and they were the fastest growing stock that first year of the pandemic. And they were improving internet performance. Even Robin, even for AWS was using their service, believe it or not. Computing at the edge, that's what they were doing. So anyways, I'm at the bar and I meet this guy there. And he's going, hey, what are you doing? I've got my laptop open and I'm buying my first Tesla. And he's like going, whoa, that's really cool. So we're talking about that. And then he's, asked me, hey, what do you do? And I go, hey, I help business leaders get their story straight. And he laughs a little. And I go, hey, what about you? What do you do? And he goes, well, we offer VR solutions for doctors. I go, whoa, that's pretty weird. Gosh, I try to help people get their theme straight as part of the storyline. What would be the theme you'd say for you guys, VR for doctors? What would be your theme? And he goes, oh, I like to tell people Netflix for doctors. And I'm like going, whoa. So you're offering streaming movies for doctors? He goes, no. And I go, why did you use Netflix then? He goes, oh, I don't know. I just sounds cool. I go, yeah, it seems like it creates a little bit more confusion. I'd love to understand this a little bit more. And he goes, yeah, hey, we need your help. And I'm here with my CEO. I'd love to talk to you about this. I go, sure. I'm like going, hey, who are you selling to at the end of the day? Who's the hero of your story? And you can see these 5 little, caricatures here, but one of them has a square around it. That's the target. And I was asking this person, hey, who's the target? Who's the hero of your story? Who are you trying to appeal to? And he's like, oh, well, doctors. And I'm like going, wow, doctors buy from you? And he's like going, no, they don't buy from us. I go, well, who's the buyer? Who's the bully with the juice? Who are you selling to at the end of the day? Who signs the contract? He goes, oh, that's easy. It's the CMO, the chief medical officer. I go, okay, cool. Well, let's talk about the CMO then, the chief medical officer. What's their big problem? What's keeping them up at night? What's hurting them? And he goes, well, they don't really know it all that well, but once we explain it, it really makes good sense. And then he told me a story around senior doctors and junior doctors. And so with the senior doctors in these surgical situations, they end up doing all the surgeries. And then the junior doctors, they don't. They kind of sit at the sidelines and they're frustrated because they're not doing surgeries. The senior doctors are doing all the surgeries. The senior doctors are getting really fatigued because they do all the surgeries and the workload's just extreme. So what happens is they get burned out. The junior guys get disenchanted and unsatisfied. Everybody loses, and it creates this situation of underperforming clinician teams. And then also it increases the morbidity rate, the mortality of the surgeries and all the repeat visits, because the senior doctors who are fatigued makes mistakes, and bad things happen when you make mistakes in surgery rooms. So anyways, we brainstormed about this a little bit, and we named the problem in 3 words. And typically I say you got to name the problem in 1, 2, 3, or no more than 4 words. So we named it and we called it underperforming clinician teams. So from there, I wanted to go, okay, so what's life on the beach look like with your solution in place? How does the CMO win? What's the outcome that you could promise them? And we brainstormed about that a little bit, but the outcome that we could promise and name in 1, 2, 3, or no more than 4 words is better patient outcomes. Again, like I said, less repeat visits to the hospital because of bad surgeries and mistakes, less mortality, and much better patient satisfaction, and the brand elevates as a result, making that chief medical officer exceptionally happy. So we can tie the solution to better patient outcomes. So here's the kicker we started to brainstorm around how do we frame his solution in 1, 2, 3, or no more than 4 words. And anybody want to take a guess with what we came up with? The solution. 1, 2, 3, or no more than 4 words for this company that was telling me that they're Netflix for doctors, but actually, no, it's kind of VR stuff. So what's the solution? Any guesses? 1, 2, 3, or no more than 4 words?
Faster, safer recovery.
Faster, safer
solution,
recovery.
That's the outcome. Solution.
Oh, no, I'll jump to it, Robin. See what you guys think. But here's where we landed. And it started to, when you think about a solution name, it's not all the stuff. It's a concept of the solution. And so we came up with one with 3 words, experience without risk. Because what we could do is we could put VR goggles on the doctors and they could start doing virtual simulated surgeries in real life. And so doing, when they make a bad cut, hey, patients don't die. It's all in virtual reality. It's all in 3D. We could also, in these very rich simulations, when people are under surgery, things happen, just random things. And the experienced doctors, even doctors in their 60s are way more adept at surgery than junior doctors. And I've got data that proves that because they've had more at-bats. They've got more experience in how to deal with things in the surgery itself. So, but what we were able to do is help these junior doctors prove their worth and prove their experience to the senior doctors and even gamify it a little bit with their solution for doctors around it, promising experience without risk. That's what the solution was. So then to round out their strategic narrative, we worked on what I call next step, because you don't want to leave your customer hanging. You move into, what are the next steps to put in place in order to embark on this solution path to deliver that envisioned outcome and to address and mitigate or take away that problem. So in their instance, they'd say, hey, let us do an assessment, look at what you guys are doing internally around the world of learning and how we'd fit there. We'd like to introduce a proof of concept for you guys, and then et cetera, to get you guys comfortable in moving down this path. So that was it. We, again, I'll highlight this for you guys. We targeted the right buyer, the CMO of large hospital systems. We spotlighted the big problem, the big, hairy, nasty problem, and that was underperforming clinician teams. And when you do this right, very often the buyer doesn't even realize the totality of the problem. And that's why I call it spotlighting. You're shining a very bright light on that problem domain where it becomes very real and very hurtful. Then you're moving on to help them envision the outcome, and very often they can't see that as well. So what is, in this instance, what did better patient outcomes look like, and how do we visualize that for them? And then showcasing the solution, experience without risk. And then what are all the pieces to that? Well, we've got technology, we've got the best instructional designers, we got this and this and this to make sure your people are successful in doing virtual surgeries. And then next steps, how do we walk forward together? What's the roadmap? So this is the overall narrative, the structure to have a story that sizzles. Any questions, concerns before I move forward? If not, let me take it one more step, because this is just verbal so far. Aside from my wife's beautiful illustrations, we have some verbal constructs, some themes around our narrative. The next challenge is I work with my clients on is how do we visualize this? And I typically like to visualize it on one page. So I'll show you an example of what I did with a company called McKesson. And it was really fun. So they were serving hospitals, but I brought a group of people together and we brainstormed. Everybody's got flip charts and whiteboards and markers, and we all were just kind of trying to figure out what's the problem we're trying to solve for. and what one of my clients likes to call the big ugly. How do we visualize the problem in a way that's exceptionally ugly? And this is what this team came up with. And it had to do around communications and documentation management. And here's the cluster and confusion that they saw across the hospital hospital systems that they were serving at the time. Then I asked the team to come up and juxtapose against that. What does the solution look like? And how can we make that materially look beautiful, juxtaposed against and contrasting against the big ugly, the problem? And so this is typically what I ask my teams to do. Now, when I start an engagement, I did one for a company called Gong in the revenue intelligence space, valued at $7 billion. And I asked their leaders, show me a picture of the problem. And they could not. It's just normal. Normally people think solution first. They don't think problem first. And they don't have a good way to characterize the problem domain, but not you guys. I'm sure that's not the case, but I normally see day in and day out that there's no visualization of the problem, therefore no clear understanding of the problem, no clear articulation. So how can you be compelling and catalyzed if you don't really grasp that problem? I'll show you another client example. I did this for an organization who at the time was training 10,000 kids down in LA area. And what we found in the problem domain is, it used to be just one kid would be at risk. And now like all kids are at risk with social media and all the different dynamics and school systems in the LA area. So many different risk points that hurt the kids in school. And this would be middle school to high school. What we found is these at-risk kids aren't just, the kids that are lower socioeconomic variable. It's everybody now. And multiple kids fall out of school. They drop out. And when that happens, it's bad for the student, bad for the school, and bad for the community. And there's some specific rates that kids that drop out of school have an incarceration rate. They go to prison at a very high rate. So I was working with this organization. Hey, how do we solve for that? And the solution we were bringing is we're kind of looking at this life ready gap and minimizing that. We want to help these kids be resilient. And so this was the path that we took them down to get rid of this big problem domain of kids falling out of school and not being life ready as they get out of school. So those are a couple of examples. And I do have, Robin, I think we've got one more poll here.
Okay.
Let me go over to that with you guys. Do you have a visual depiction of the problem your strategy solves? I'm just curious.
Do you want to pause and see if there's any questions on what you shared? Or you want to do the
we could, yeah, or do the poll real fast, and then we'll just open it up after that, Robin, because I think we got to bring this in for a landing pretty soon.
We got about 10 minutes. Did I miss the QR code?
Oh, let me see if I can get that up again.
Somebody was very quick. They got it.
Yeah. Wow, nobody. Isn't that interesting? It's so darn wild for me. It's counterintuitive, but a lot of people don't have it. Thanks for your honesty and sharing that with me.
Hang on, I'll submit because I do strategy on a page.
Very good. Oh, and you do have the problem dimension there, Robin? Because a lot of time I rarely see it. You'll
no, then I take it back. Then I withdraw it. No, it doesn't state the problem. It states the outcome. So
yeah.
I read the question quickly. I read the visual, not the problem. So
and like
no,
I say that, yeah, back to the point though, that problem, back to Kahneman's model. Oh, it's not showing for some reason. Oh, there it is. Yeah.
It is, yeah.
That problem domain, that is the most catalyzing domain. So I always tell people plant the problem, just like a gymnast jumping off of balance beam. I want to see a perfect 10 on that.
Catalyzing in what? In terms of getting people to move, in terms of getting response?
Yeah, getting people to change. Yeah. Like you taught me a long time ago, when there's a big initiative, there's a lot of people that are on the bus moving, and then there's a lot of people not. but that problem can be that burning bridge, or that would really help people understand. It's imperative. It's life or death, or whatever it's going to be. So yeah, Robin, back to you then. If we do want to do a round of questions on this, I'd love to take any questions.
Well, first of all, let me say thank you very much for sharing. Not only was your message well articulated, but you reinforced your key concept of visualization with the great visuals. So thank you, Bruce, for doing that. A few more have joined. A couple came in a bit later. So let me just take a moment. I will open it up in just a second for those who have questions. For those who missed the earlier part, the key message in Bruce's that he's sharing, inspire the buyer, is having the discipline to articulate the problem, know what this outcome is, and then offer the solution. And far too often, we jump to the solution without doing the homework, without truly knowing what the problem is. We can't show the visual what the problem is, which was at the end of what Bruce was sharing. The outcome, the really knowing what we want to deliver, why we're doing it, and then working on the solution only then. So let me open it up. We got a couple of minutes, and then I know, Bruce, you want to close out with one story.
Yeah. And just to add to what you just said, Robin, I'd say, like we talked about earlier, there's 5 key elements. So target the right buyer, spotlight the problem, envision the outcome, showcase that solution, but in this order, this cognitive flow, and then round out with next steps. So yeah, any other comments or concerns based on what you heard? Or
Okay, so hey Bruce, it's Cindy here. Sorry, I'm not showing. My internet connection is a bit wobbly.
No worries.
So I really liked your messages. I think the key things that kind of stood out for me were around the 3 C's, the clear, compelling, and catalyzing. But I really like the image around spotlight the problem. That's a huge issue for us. So I lead our strategic program management office, and often people come to us with business cases, and half the time, actually more than half the time, they don't spotlight that problem. And I really like what you said about visualizing the narrative and just really getting everyone on the same page, because often what happens is everyone's viewing that same problem through different perspectives, and often we have like differing views, and you can't kind of move forward until you like you say, visualize that problem and the narrative around it.
That's so critical. Yeah, to do a little plug, in the book, I've got a whole chapter on visualization, but it's just so imperative to get everybody on the same page. The picture's worth 1,000 words. It really is. So thank you, Cindy, for saying that.
Even with the visual graphics. Thank you, Cindy.
I'm a very visual person, and I often find I
can't visually see you, but
yeah. No, she mentioned the internet's bad, but yeah.
No, I'm joking.
So often, when I'm presenting to exec teams, when you show something visual, it just you capture them, and it's like what you're saying with that compelling message, and that's key. And I think it's really quite critical up front to do that. Otherwise, without that visual, it takes people a little bit of time to actually get there. So thank you, Bruce. I really appreciate it.
Oh, of course.
And Cindy, I'll add on to what you just mentioned in the communications module on the strategy course, on the professional course. We have a tool called the strategy on a page. And one of the biggest problems in implementation is when you launch the strategy, leaders talk about it from 80,000 feet, big picture, high level, and it doesn't connect with the people on the ground. So we've shown through various research that 95% of employees don't even know what the new strategy is. So fully support you and agree that, but we then create the visual, which is one of the parts of the course, one of the modules, how to create your strategy into a visual that supports what you're saying.
Great. I look forward to that module. Thank you, Robin.
Thanks, Robin. Yeah. Well, Robin, can I bring us on with the story?
We're going to wrap up. So I know you're going to close it. So let me just take, first of all, say thank you to everyone for coming in today. It's the first time we've done it at this time. So I'm delighted those in New Zealand and the West Coast and Arizona were able to dial in. I'd like, Bruce, I'm going to let you have the final words. I'm going to say thank you very much for sharing today. I always remember it as the POS, point of sale, problem outcome solution. So that will resonate for me. We wish you all the best with the book. It's available on Amazon. Inspire Your Buyers, correct?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
on
yeah,
Amazon. Also, you
absolutely.
have a Kindle version as well, yeah?
Yeah, yeah, and Audible with my beautiful voice. If you guys want to listen
There
to
we
me.
go. So whether you want to listen, see it, or feel it, it's available. Bruce, on behalf of the Institute, thank you for giving us your time, and over to you.
Sure. Yeah. I'd mentioned to Robin, I just wanted to close with a story because this really anchored, all this wisdom and research. My older brother really kind of did one on me. So this story, this is at the beginning of the pandemic. And my brother called me up one day and he goes, "Hey, guess what?" And I go, "What, Steve?" And Steve never calls me. He's the wise older brother that never calls. I always call him. And so this was unusual. And I go, what, Steve? What's going on? He goes, "Well, Dad called and he wants to sell his boat." And my dad was 92 at the time. And so I immediately start in my brain going, "Oh shit." And then he goes, "And he wants to sell it on Craigslist." And I'm like going, "Oh no." And I'm like going, "Steve, that means I'm selling it on Craigslist." And he goes, yeah, maybe. But, I was thinking you might want to buy that boat. And I'm like going, "Me? I want to buy that boat. Why in the hell would I want an old, smelly, polluting fishing boat?" Are you kidding? Does it have a 49-inch wide ultra monitor? Is it electric like my Tesla? Why would I want to buy that boat? And he's like just going, "Well, how long have you been living on that island?" And I say, "Well, 16 years now, doing pretty good." And he goes, "Gosh, 16 years living on an island without a boat. If I was you, I would just feel trapped." I'm like going, "Trapped?" He goes, yeah, just trapped." And I go, "What do you mean trapped?" And he goes, "Oh, the ferry. What if the ferry breaks down sometime? You're kind of stuck on the island." I go, "The ferry doesn't break down, really. I guess it could." He goes, "Yeah, but what about the earthquake? It's going to be here 50 to 500 years from now. Nobody really knows. But when it comes, anything west of I-5, look out. I'd probably want to have a boat then." I'm like going, "Seriously, Steve, really?" And so then I went to bed that night, because I said, "Hey, I'll call you back tomorrow. We'll talk about how I'm going to sell Dad's boat." So luckily this happened on a weekend and I tossed and turned in my bed all night. And then I woke up in the morning and I called Steve and go, "Hey, Steve, guess what?" And he goes, "What?" And I'm like going, "I'm feeling trapped." I've got my family here on the island, man. You sold me. I'm feeling trapped. Why else should I buy that boat? And he goes, "Well, I don't know if you were aware, but in the Puget Sound where you live, Bruce, there's probably a marina every mile around where you live. And your wife loves eating out and you're stuck at home in the pandemic. You could go out with Cindy and order takeout and treat her for a meal and you'd not run out of options." I'm like going, "No way. Would Dad's boat take me out on the ocean like that, out on the Puget Sound?" He goes, "Yeah, sure. If the weather gets bad, just go slow. But no, there's enough draft. You could do it." I'm like going, wow, fun and happy wife. I love it. "Steve, what else do I need to know? What do I need to do to get this boat?" And he's like just going, "Well, do you still have that little parking area up by your yurt?" And I go, I do, out this outbuilding." He goes, "You could store it there. And do you still have that Lexus?" And I go, "Yeah." "By any chance, does it have a trailer hitch on it?" I go, "Funny enough, it does. Yeah." He goes, what size?" And I go, "It's 2-inch. It's for my mountain bikes." And he's like just going, "Perfect. That would work. And how much does Dad want for it?" And he's like going, "Oh, a couple thousand." So anyways, that weekend, I drove out about 400 miles to my dad's and he offered to sell it to me for 2,000. I countered with 3,000. We met in the middle at 2,500 and I brought it back and I've been boating ever since. I'm on boat number 2 now. But just to highlight what my brother did, this retired doctor, he targeted the right buyer, a guy living on an island without a boat with plenty of money to spend. He spotlighted my big problem, trapped, in one word, trapped. And then he helped me envision the outcome, fun and happy wife, 4 words. And then he showcased the solution, boating. And then he took it all home with the next step, saying, hey, here's where you park it. Here's how you tow it. Here's how you maintain it. And he was on call. So he just nailed every aspect of this narrative structure that we've been preaching about, you know, all in that session. So anyways, I wanted to leave you with that. All this works all the way down to how my brother sold me an old fishing boat. And believe me, I didn't know I needed one, but he gave me a problem I didn't know I had.
The moral of the story is hire Bruce to inspire your buyers, but not to negotiate.
Yeah, that is true.
Negotiation skills are definitely not.
Hey, man, it was my dad. It was my dad. Come on, 92-year-old man. I can't take advantage of an old man. But anyways, hey, thank you for allowing me to be with you. It's been wonderful. So I hope this is helpful to you in what you're doing and the important work that you guys do.
Bruce, it's a fantastic, wonderful closing story. On that note, we wish everyone have a wonderful day, evening ahead, and see you next month.
Yeah.
Thanks, Bruce.
Thank you so much.
Bye, Margaret.
Thank you very much.
See you guys. Thanks, Cindy. Yeah. Bye, guys.